"Holy Moses!" the blind man heard him mutter, and there followed a rapid fusillade of "How?" and "When?" and "What?" and "You don't mean it," all indicating consternation and surprise as long as the colloquy lasted. "Here's a pretty go," announced Mr. Enderley, hanging up the receiver. "We've been burgled." "The deuce!" exclaimed Carrados sympathetically. "I hope your wife isn't much upset." "No, I don't think so. In fact, she seems rather set up, because some of our neighbours were robbed in a very commonplace way lately, and she's determined that this must have been the authentic monkey. Much taken. Apparently the silver chest and nothing else. Myra rather fancied that I would call here on my way from something I had said. That's why she rang you up. And she wants me to go straight on. I hope you don't mind." "Of course not. I had hoped that you would keep me company for an hour or two, but that's out of the question now. I'll tell you what, though. I will make a bargain with you. Stay another 15 minutes, in which we can have a snack of some kind in place of dinner. In the meanwhile, I will have a car got out and will land you at your place quicker than any other way you could go. And in return you shall invite me to inspect the depredation." "That's certainly a bargain from my side of the transaction," replied Enderley. "If it isn't putting you out, I'll accept like a shot." "Not a bit," declared his host, with more than polite formality. He moved across to the house telephone and quickly distributed the necessary orders. "I love anything that comes suddenly along. It may be the beginning of what adventure?" "Well, as to that, of course, there are two sides," said the domesticated Enderley. "This is quite sudden enough for me, but I certainly don't love it." Carrados was as good as his literal word, and 15 minutes after he had spoken, the lean form of his speedy Redshank car glided down the drive into the high road, and then stretched out for Silver Park. "Now that it's come to this, I might as well tell you about our silver," explained Mr. Enderley to his companion on a confidential impulse. "We happen to have rather a lot, more than people in our modest way generally sport, I mean. Myra's father was a fruit grower and won a lot of cups and plates in his time. I used to be something of a runner, and I amassed a few more. And when we got married, our friends showered cruets and cake baskets down on us galore. The consequence is that there was a solid 1/2 of the metal reposing in a specially made case in the dining room at Holmcroft. Of course, it ought to have been kept at the bank, and at first it was, but Myra liked to see an assortment out on the sideboard, so that it got to be a nuisance, sending it backwards and forwards. Then I said that if we had it in the house, it ought to be kept up in the bedroom for safety. And Myra found that she couldn't even lift the chest, and decided that it would be too inconvenient to have it there. What with one thing and another, the confounded silver got to be a bit of a sore point between us. It brought on the first unpleasantness we had. Then, as bad luck would have it, just when I was leaving the other morning to go on this job, we must needs get arguing about it again. I suggested that as there would be only 2 women alone in the house, herself and the servant, it would be safer if I carried the box up and hid it under the bed. Myra, God knows why, retorted that if the silver was the danger point, it wasn't very kind to want to put it just under where she would be. One silly word led to another, until I finally went off saying that I wished the damn stuff was at the bottom of the river. "You seem to have got the next thing to what you asked for, then," remarked Carrados. "The silver apparently won't trouble you again." But Enderley demurred at this cheerful summary and shook his head. "Oh yes," he replied, "but when you wish a thing like that, you don't really mean that you want it to happen. You are insured, I suppose?" "Only partly, I'm afraid, because the value of the silver now exceeds the percentage allowed. And of course, a lot of the things have associations, although there is nothing of antique value. I'm really wondering how Myra will take it when the excitement wears off." But so far the excitement was on, and she welcomed them radiantly, albeit a shade mystified that Mr. Carrados should have chosen that moment to pay his